In this lesson, we're looking at academic writing task 1, comparing and contrasting data. Let's look at this task. The bar chart shows the percentage of total workforce in different employment sectors in 3 countries. So we've got Australia, Japan, India, and the 3 employment sectors are service, agriculture, and industrial. No time is given, so present tense is appropriate here. And we'll have to use the language of comparing and contrasting to do the task well. So let's look at how to do that. But firstly, let's have a look at the main comparisons. Here we have 3 main comparisons. We just want to focus on the main comparisons. We don't want to talk about every little detail. It would take too long. So here, Australia and Japan are similar. India has the highest proportion employed in the agricultural sector, and India has fewer workers in the service and industrial sector than either Australia or Japan. They're our main comparisons. Okay, so let's look at some of the language we're using to make those comparisons. Here, we're using comparatives and superlatives. Similar, the highest proportion, fewer than either or. Let's have a look at an example writing. We'll go through this and say why it's good based on the writing criteria. Now, firstly, we need to introduce the task. So here we've got the bar chart shows, and what we've done is we've reworded this, paraphrased it, and used the passive tense. So a comparison of the proportion of workers. For more about writing academic introductions, see Lesson 6. Now, let's look back at the main comparisons. We want to put these main comparisons into well-constructed paragraphs. Remember, we just want to focus on the main comparisons. We don't want to talk about every little difference or detail. In the second paragraph, we've taken the first 2 comparisons and developed them into complex sentences. We've also given some numbers, 72% and 70%, for example. Look at the language on how to do that in a second. Then in the third paragraph, we've used the contrast of India. Again, we've taken that simple main comparison or contrast and developed it into a complex sentence, and we've used some numbers from the bar chart to illustrate what we mean. Now, if we look back at the main comparisons, the simple comparisons we made before, we can see we've used that language of comparison and contrast in our writing. Here are some examples. Highest proportion, the similar distribution is likewise found in stark contrast, so a very big contrast. We've also used a range of ways to express numbers, both within the sentence and within brackets. So we're trying to show that we have a range of language that we can use in an academic style. And finally, we have a clear and concise conclusion that sums up the information we have just discussed. For more about writing academic conclusions, see Lesson 6. Things to remember for academic task 1, comparing data. Don't just copy the task in the introduction. You need to reword or paraphrase the information in the task. See Lesson 6 for more information. You also need to organize the main comparisons into logical paragraphs, as is shown here. You also need to use the language of comparison to describe the data, and there are a large number of ways you can do that. You also need to use a range of ways to express numbers, within sentences and within brackets. Finally, for the conclusion, remember to summarize the main information and not explain or give your opinion about the data. You can download a PDF of this writing or the podcast at English Online Australia.